Hello my motor enthusiasts. The 2024 British Grand Prix qualifying has thrown us some fascinating curves. Mercedes surged to the front with George Russell grabbing pole and Lewis Hamilton right behind him. Surprisingly, 3 Brits, including Lando Norris from McLaren, locked out the top 3 spots, showcasing a strong showing from local talents. While McLaren and Haas enjoyed a robust qualifying session, Red Bull and Ferrari faced some hurdles, with Max Verstappen managing 4th and Charles Leclerc only 11th. On the downside, Alpine struggled with operational missteps, significantly impacting their grid positions. With the race ahead, the strategies around tyre degradation and weather conditions will be pivotal. Strap in, it's gearing up to be an electrifying race day at Silverstone. Hey everyone! You already know me, this is Enzo.
And this is William.
Same time every day with you all on Channel F1 Motor Fever podcast. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really helps us out. Full throttle. We've seen some truly remarkable performances at the British Grand Prix qualifying session. Mercedes, under the spotlight, has shown stellar progress. George Russell, clinching pole position, has the home crowd absolutely buzzing. His teammate, Lewis Hamilton, missed out on pole by just 0.171 seconds, creating a front-row lockout for Mercedes. This unexpected result has sent waves of excitement across Silverstone.
Indeed, the energy from the crowd really seems to have given the Brits an extra boost. It's fascinating how both drivers emphasized the importance of tire temperatures during their runs. They managed to get everything lined up perfectly when it mattered most.
Absolutely, and what's intriguing is how Russell described the car as coming alive during qualifying. It's a testament to the team's hard work back at Brackley and Brixworth. With both Mercedes drivers at the front, it'll be crucial to see how they plan to fend off Lando Norris, who's just behind them and looking strong as well.
That's going to be a critical dynamic to watch. Norris has been consistent, and with the top 3 positions held by British drivers, the local fans are in for a treat. The race is shaping up to be a tactical battle with high stakes.
Absolutely, and it's a race that promises to be as much about strategy as it is about speed. Let's see how it unfolds. Full throttle. The sentiments from the Mercedes camp are absolutely triumphant yet cautious. Toto Wolff, the head of Mercedes-Benz Motorsport, has highlighted the exceptional performance but remains wary of the challenges from Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. It's clear that tyre degradation could play a critical role in tomorrow's race.
Yes, and Andrew Chauvelin, the trackside engineering director, seemed pleased with the qualifying performance, particularly noting the improvement in pace from the wet conditions in FP3. It seems that the team's overnight setup adjustments have paid dividends, especially with the cooler conditions which may have suited their car better.
Definitely. And with both Mercedes drivers at the front, converting this into a 1-2 finish is their clear objective. However, keeping Norris and Verstappen behind them is acknowledged as a tough task. It's gripping to hear how every element, from tyre strategies to weather conditions, could influence the race.
Absolutely, and the support from the Silverstone crowd has been phenomenal. It adds an extra layer of excitement and perhaps pressure for the drivers. Meanwhile, Norris, after leading in the second qualifying session, narrowly missed out on pole, which Russell took by just 0.06 of a second. His decision to return to the pits instead of completing his final lap was quite a moment.
Indeed, every second and decision counts in such tightly contested sessions. With the stage set for an exhilarating race, the atmosphere at Silverstone is electric. Let's see what tomorrow holds as these drivers push to the limit. Full throttle. Lando Norris securing the 3rd spot is a solid achievement, especially with the top 3 positions locked out by British drivers. The atmosphere must be electric. Norris mentioned a slight mistake on his final lap, but he remains confident in his pace, particularly if it rains tomorrow.
That's true, but I think the real story might be Oscar Piastri in 5th. Even though he got stuck in traffic, he and the McLaren team are optimistic about their race pace. Traffic in qualifying is indeed frustrating, but it's part of the game. The ability to navigate and manage these situations can really set a driver apart.
Perhaps, but I feel that traffic should not be such a defining factor in qualifying. It detracts from a driver's true potential. Piastri could have potentially been higher up the grid if not for those disruptions. It just doesn't sit right with me that external factors like traffic can impact such crucial placements.
I understand that view, but isn't dealing with traffic just another skill in a driver's arsenal? Think about it, navigating through slower cars, timing your lap perfectly to avoid getting held up, it all adds to the challenge and excitement of qualifying. It's all part of the strategic depth of Formula One.
There's merit in your point about it being a skill, that's undeniable. However, I'm not fully convinced it should affect qualifying as much as it does. But I agree, it does add another layer of strategy.
And that's fine. It's normal for us to have different views on this. The important thing is to keep an open mind and maybe consider how these elements add to the complexity and unpredictability of the sport.
Agreed. I'll ponder that further. It's always good to consider different perspectives, especially in a sport as dynamic as Formula One. Moving on to Red Bull, it was quite an eventful qualifying for them at Silverstone. Max Verstappen managed a fourth place despite suffering damage from an off in the wet conditions of Q1. His teammate, Sergio Perez, wasn't as fortunate, ending up beached in the gravel and bringing out the red flags.
Yes, Perez's mishap must be a heavy blow, not just for him but for the entire team as well. Starting from 19th on the grid is a tough setback. His apology shows the weight of the situation on his shoulders. It's going to be a challenging race for him to make up ground.
Absolutely, and Christian Horner's comments underscore the mixed fortunes for the team. Verstappen's ability to still secure a second row start, despite the adversity, really speaks volumes about his skills and the team's quick recovery efforts during such high-pressure moments.
Shifting our focus to Ferrari, they too had their share of challenges. Charles Leclerc, starting from 11th, mentioned the team has been struggling for a few weekends. They experimented with different car configurations, which he believes will provide valuable insights moving forward.
True, and it seems Carlos Sainz also faced difficulties, particularly with getting his tyres up to temperature due to traffic. He'll be starting 7th, which is respectable, but far from ideal given Ferrari's aspirations and capabilities.
It's evident that the conditions threw quite a few curveballs at the teams. Managing these variables, from car damage to tyre temperatures, really tests the teams' and drivers' adaptability. It sets the stage for a compelling race day, with plenty of scope for strategy and driver skill to impact the final results.
Indeed. The unpredictability of motorsport is always a big draw. With so many variables at play, tomorrow's race at Silverstone is shaping up to be an intriguing spectacle. Let's see how it all unfolds. Carlos Sainz has candidly reflected on the challenges Ferrari faced during the qualifying at Silverstone, citing the tricky conditions and the struggle with traffic. He mentioned that perhaps they could have strategized their outlap timing better to avoid the mess and get the tires into the optimal condition for the last push.
Indeed, and Fred Vasseur, the team principal, also expressed some regret over their qualifying strategy. Switching back to the old spec due to issues with the new one seems like a pivot to handle Silverstone's demanding high-speed corners better. He acknowledged that the traffic compounded their challenges, particularly in the last phase when Carlos was trying to secure a better grid position.
It sounds like a definite mix of strategy missteps and just plain bad luck with the traffic. Vasseur seems to be holding on to hope that a rainy race day could play into their hands given their grid positions, suggesting that a chaotic race might be their best chance to salvage a strong points finish.
Moving on to Aston Martin, they seem to have had a better day, with both cars reaching Q3. Fernando Alonso even topped the timesheets during the early stages of Q2. However, traffic issues again played a spoiling role, preventing him from completing his final lap in Q3, which left him starting from 10th place.
Traffic really seems to have been the common adversary for many teams during this qualifying session. It's fascinating how much of an impact it has, not just in races, but also in setting up the grid positions.
Absolutely, the dynamic of qualifying in Formula One is so intricate. The interplay of strategy, timing, weather, and traffic can alter the course dramatically. It's what makes the sport so unpredictable and thrilling.
Right, and with the weather potentially turning tomorrow, it adds another layer of uncertainty. The teams will have to be on top of their game with strategy to navigate through whatever conditions Silverstone throws at them. It's going to be an exciting race day for sure.
Listening to Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso talk about their qualifying efforts and the challenges they faced, it really takes me back to my own childhood. I remember being at a karting event in Birmingham. It was one of those typical British rainy days, much like the drivers often face in Silverstone. The track was slippery, visibility was poor, and yet, there was this thrilling sense of challenge, much like what the Aston Martin team experienced.
That's a great story. It's amazing how these childhood experiences can resonate so deeply with the complexities of Formula One. It's all about adapting to the track and weather conditions, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's fascinating how something as simple as leaving the pit lane at the wrong moment can have ramifications. Stroll's account of seeing the red light just as he exited the pit lane but choosing safety over abrupt braking reminds us of the split-second decisions that have to be made in racing, whether you're a young karting enthusiast or in the high-pressure environment of Formula One.
Indeed, those quick decisions can make all the difference. And it sounds like the team principals are aware of these challenges. Mike Crack of Aston Martin pointed out that despite the tricky conditions and the traffic, the team managed a decent qualifying, with both cars making it into the top 10.
That's right, and the British weather always plays its part, adding an element of unpredictability. It's a bit like playing a strategic game where you have to constantly adjust your plans based on the ever-changing conditions. Aston Martin seems to have adjusted well, securing a strong position for the race.
It's all set up for an exciting race day. With the British crowd behind them, it could provide just the boost Aston Martin needs to turn these qualifying positions into valuable points. Over at Haas, Nico Hülkenberg managed to carry forward his momentum from the previous race, achieving the team's best qualifying result of the season in 6th place. He credited the updates brought to the car just yesterday for the improvement in performance.
It's always a boost for the team when updates show immediate results. Hülkenberg mentioned gaining confidence from the car, which allowed him to extract maximum performance even under pressure. It speaks volumes about the car's potential and the team's direction.
Indeed, and contrast that with Kevin Magnussen's situation. He found himself eliminated early in 17th position due to the mixed conditions. He went off track, and by the time they decided to rejoin, the track had dried and others had improved their times.
That's the harsh reality of racing, isn't it? Sometimes a split-second decision can completely change your fate in the session. Magnussen's misjudgment of the weather, assuming it was more than just a brief sprinkle, cost him dearly.
Ayao Komatsu, Haas's team principal, described the day as eventful and tricky. He acknowledged the progress they made in learning about the car's behavior on intermediates during the third free practice, but admitted there were areas needing improvement, especially in terms of timings and margins they set for qualifying.
Absolutely, it's all about fine-tuning strategies and learning from each session, each race. Having one car in 6th and the other out so early does highlight the variability in Formula 1, where every lap, every second counts.
With Nico starting from such a strong position, it will be interesting to see how he handles the race, especially if he can maintain or improve his grid position. It's a significant opportunity for Haas to score some valuable points.
Definitely, and with the unpredictable nature of British weather, tomorrow's race could be quite the spectacle. Adjusting strategies to suit rapidly changing conditions will be crucial for all teams, but especially for those like Haas, who could really benefit from a bit of chaos.
Moving over to Williams, another team relishing their home event at Silverstone, they had a very successful qualifying session. Alex Albon managed to secure 9th place, equaling his best performance of the year. It's a testimony to the resilience and adaptability of the team, especially navigating through such tricky weather conditions.
It certainly is. Albon mentioned that despite picking up a little damage in Q2, the car held up well, which allowed him to push through to Q3. It's encouraging to see a team not just fighting back but actually enjoying the challenge and making the most of every opportunity on the track.
Absolutely, and let's not overlook Logan Sargent, who despite missing the first practice and having limited low fuel runs before qualifying, managed a commendable 12th place. That's his strongest qualifying of 2024, and it sets him up nicely for the race. Williams seems to be in a good place to leverage whatever conditions come their way.
Yes, Sargent also highlighted how he had to adapt quickly to the drying track in Q1 and managed to deliver when it counted. It's that kind of quick thinking and flexibility that can really make a difference in such unpredictable conditions.
Indeed, and with the weather looking as variable tomorrow as it was today, it opens up a realm of strategic possibilities for the race. Williams will have a good chance to fight for some solid points, and it's always a bit more thrilling when the weather adds that extra layer of unpredictability.
That's right, and with both drivers showing strong performances today, they're definitely in a position to maximize any opportunities that the British weather throws at them. It'll be exciting to see how it all unfolds.
It's been a challenging session for RB as well, with both drivers feeling the pressures of the demanding weather conditions. Daniel Ricciardo, in particular, found himself in a tricky spot, finishing 15th after a couple of problematic runs in Q2. He mentioned struggles with dirty air and the frustration of not getting a clear lap, which really compounded the difficulties they've been facing over the last few races.
With Ricciardo facing these ongoing issues, do you think there's an underlying problem with the car setup, or is it more about adapting to the track conditions that have been quite variable this weekend?
That's a good point. From the sounds of it, it could be a mix of both. Ricciardo did mention that they've been dragging the same struggles from the previous races into Silverstone, suggesting that there could indeed be some lingering issues with the car's setup or performance. However, the unpredictable weather this weekend hasn't given them much room to maneuver or test out changes effectively.
And what about Yuki Tsunoda? How has he managed the conditions compared to his teammate?
Tsunoda ended up in 13th place, which, while not ideal, does show a slight improvement over Ricciardo's position. He seemed a bit more adaptable to the changing conditions, perhaps indicating a better handle on the car during these unpredictable sessions. This could play to his advantage, especially if we're expecting more of the same erratic weather for the race.
With the forecast pointing to similar conditions tomorrow, how critical will strategy be for teams like Williams and RB who are fighting in the midfield?
Strategy will be absolutely crucial. For teams like Williams who have shown potential in qualifying, maintaining or improving those positions will hinge on making the right tyre choices at the optimal times and potentially taking advantage of any shifts in the weather. Similarly, for RB, it's about damage control and trying to salvage points where possible, especially for Ricciardo who needs a strong result to break this cycle of frustrating outings.
It certainly sets the stage for an intriguing race day. With the weather playing such a pivotal role, teams will need to be on their toes and ready to react at a moment's notice.
That's right, and that's what makes Formula One so exhilarating. The combination of driver skill, team strategy, and a bit of luck with the weather can turn what looks like a setback into a significant advantage. It's all to play for. Reflecting on the team's performances, RB has been quite candid about their struggles, especially in the high-speed corners which have persisted from last week. The technical team, led by Jody Eggington, emphasized how crucial communication was during the session to adapt to the quick shifts in weather. Despite being unable to turn their weekend around completely, the tight field means they're still very much in contention.
It sounds like adapting to these conditions is proving to be a theme for all teams. How did Kik Sauber manage during the qualifying?
Kik Sauber indeed faced similar challenging conditions. Valtteri Bottas just missed out on advancing to Q2, finishing in 16th. He mentioned that they were among the first to switch to slick tyres, which initially seemed like a smart move, but as conditions improved towards the end of Q1, others found an extra edge which they couldn't. It's quite the gamble in such unpredictable weather.
With this kind of variability in weather, it must be incredibly difficult to make strategic decisions on the fly. How are the teams planning to tackle the race if the conditions continue to be as unpredictable?
That's a crucial question. With the forecast suggesting more of the same erratic weather, teams will need to be very dynamic with their strategies. The ability to communicate effectively between the drivers and their teams during the race will be paramount. Adaptability could be the key factor that separates the front runners from the rest of the pack tomorrow.
And as we've seen, even the smallest margins can make a significant difference. Do you think this could potentially shake up the usual pecking order?
Absolutely, and that's one of the thrilling aspects of Formula One. Unpredictable conditions like these can level the playing field somewhat, allowing drivers who excel in adverse conditions to make their mark. It'll be fascinating to see which drivers and teams can turn these challenges to their advantage and perhaps score unexpected points. Moving on to Kik Sauber, the mood there is surprisingly optimistic despite the positions on the grid. Zhu Guanyu managed to make it into Q2 and finished 14th. He remarked that Silverstone suits them better than Austria did, and they were able to capitalize on the mixed conditions. The team's strategy to handle the tricky weather proved effective, which he hopes will carry over into the race.
That's an interesting point about adapting their setup. How significant were the changes they made?
Quite significant, according to Alessandro Alunni Bravi, the team representative. From what was mentioned, they adjusted to a higher downforce level which improved their performance notably in qualifying. It seems these tweaks made the car more responsive and allowed Zhu to be more competitive, even against the likes of the RBS and Leclerc.
And what about Bottas? How did he fare with these changes?
Unfortunately, Bottas didn't have the same luck. He was knocked out in Q1 by a very narrow margin. While his first lap was promising, he had to abort his subsequent attempts which really cost him. It's a shame because he showed potential to progress further. The team did emphasize the positive changes and their good judgment in tyre strategy, particularly being the first to switch to softs before the red flag.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential for Kik Sauber to make a significant impact in the race, especially with the unpredictable weather.
Absolutely, and with Silverstone known for its overtaking opportunities, it could really play into their hands. Tyre management and strategic calls will be critical, but if they execute as well as they did in qualifying, there's every chance they could be fighting for points.
With these developments, tomorrow's race is shaping up to be quite unpredictable.
Indeed, and that's the beauty of Formula One. Each race brings its own set of challenges, and it's all about how well the teams and drivers adapt and capitalize on the opportunities that come their way. Switching focus to Alpine, they've had their share of struggles in the qualifying session. Esteban Ocon ended up in 18th place and voiced his frustration over a miscommunication during qualifying. He was under the impression that he had an extra lap to push before being instructed to abort, which seems to have cost him dearly under the drying track conditions.
That must be incredibly frustrating, especially in such a tight field. And what about Gasly's approach during the session?
Pierre Gasly's situation was a bit different. Knowing he would start from the back due to a penalty for new power unit elements, they opted for a conservative strategy, doing just one lap on the soft tyres. It seems they wanted to avoid any unnecessary risks, particularly after he missed much of the free practice 3 due to a mishap in the gravel.
It sounds like a strategic decision, but one wonders if it could have been handled differently given the improving track conditions.
Absolutely, and Bruno Famin, the team principal, also acknowledged that they weren't sharp enough operationally. They missed the best window to set a good time, which only added to their challenges. Alpine seems aware of their shortcomings today and are looking towards making the best of a tough starting position tomorrow.
With the unpredictable weather persisting, do you think these conditions could actually play into their hands during the race?
Potentially, yes. Both drivers mentioned the tricky conditions, and if it stays variable, it could indeed throw in some opportunities for drivers like Ocon and Gasly to make up ground. Changeable conditions often lead to unexpected outcomes, and if Alpine can capitalize on these, they might just salvage something from the weekend.
It'll be an uphill battle, but as always, unpredictability can be a leveler in Formula One.
That's the spirit of the sport, isn't it? Every lap is a chance to turn things around. Tomorrow promises to be an exciting race, with all these elements at play. Now, over to Pirelli's insights on this qualifying session. Mario Isola, the motorsport director, highlighted just how thrilling the session was, especially with 3 British drivers finishing in the top 3. The improvements in car development over the past year have been remarkable, evidenced by the fact that lap times have dropped by around 1 second, even though the tyre specifications remained unchanged from last year's race at Silverstone.
That's quite impressive, particularly given the wet conditions. It shows just how much the teams have evolved in terms of performance and adaptation.
Absolutely, and speaking of weather, it seems that will be the great unknown for tomorrow's race. Isola mentioned that if it rains as it did during Free Practice 3, we might see teams opting for a 2-stop strategy using intermediates and wets. However, if conditions turn out dry, a 1-stop strategy could be the quickest, with all 3 tyre compounds being viable options.
The strategy choices will be crucial. It sounds like the teams will need to be very adaptable and make quick decisions based on the weather conditions.
Definitely, and this flexibility could really shake up the standings. The choice between starting on the C3, transitioning to C2, or avoiding the softs altogether offers teams a range of strategies that could significantly impact their race performance.
It's going to be a captivating race with these elements in play. The uncertainty of the weather paired with strategic decisions could provide some unexpected results.
That's the intrigue of Formula One. Every race is not just about speed and power, but also about strategy and adaptation. Tomorrow promises to show the finest of these qualities. William, what's the word on the street, internet-wise?
Right, listen to this. Electrical Gamer 021 mentioned, quote, Max Verstappen about the British media bias, unquote.
Ah, that's a hot topic. What are people saying in the comments?
It sparked quite the discussion. Nova Dover 2020 asked about the reaction in non-English media like German, French, Italian, and Spanish. According to Greep, they focused more on Russell winning and didn't make a big deal out of the crash.
Interesting. How about other countries?
Alcides Negro from Brazil said it was the same there, while Dry Dragon Fruit 5216 wished the British media would focus more on Russell's victory too. Tom 030792 pointed out that it's surprising since it was a clash between first and second in the championship.
Seems like the perspective varies quite a bit globally.
Exactly. And there's a user, Greepy, who pointed out that while the crash was mentioned, it was seen as a minor one since the championship is far from over. No need to cause much drama, they said.
So, it's more of a measured response outside the UK.
Precisely. And there's another point from Denning76, saying that the British media isn't any more biased towards its national drivers than other countries are towards theirs, it's just more visible.
Visibility certainly plays a role in how narratives are spun, eh?
That's the crux, really. Alarming Reporter 3732 mentioned that with outlets like Sky and Autosport reaching millions of English speakers globally, they have significant control of the narrative, which can lead to unbalanced views and unnecessary fan disputes.
Quite a debate over the influence of media in shaping perceptions. Anything on the strategies for tomorrow's race?
Not much from the forum, but it's clear from earlier discussions that the weather and tyre strategy will play a crucial role. Should make for an intriguing race.
Thanks for tuning into F1 Motor Fever podcast today. We've tackled everything from the dynamics of the race, strategies, global media perceptions, to fan reactions. We really appreciate you joining us in these discussions. Please make sure to subscribe and activate those notifications so you never miss out on our content. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, why not share it on your social networks? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments too.
Absolutely, and remember, it's not just about the race, it's about the journey with all of you. We're here every day, bringing you the latest and most exciting Formula One insights. Next time, who knows what twists and turns await us on the track and in our discussions. It's bound to be intriguing.
Indeed, William. We're grateful for your time and your passion for Formula One. Looking forward to having you with us in the next episode. Remember, we might not know what's coming down the track, but it's sure to captivate.
And don't forget, humor and surprises are always around the corner here at F1 Motor Fever Podcast. Thanks for sharing your day with us, and keep those engines revving for more.
Pedal to the metal, keep your gaze on the road, our channel's content is pure gold.